to the Once and Future Authors podcast. I'm Stephanie Larkin, and I am so delighted to be joined today by author Debbie De Louise. Debbie has written hordes of books in various genres, and she is also a librarian, which, if you've listened to the podcast, you know that I think librarians are up there with God because they know so much. So welcome, Debbie, and thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Stephanie. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here.
I am thrilled to have you on the show, and I've had the joy of reading some of your books. I don't know if I could keep up. How many are there now, Deb?
There are 7 currently, and I have 2 that will be published. I hope. I'm working on.
And in addition to your published books, am I right that you also publish articles and things like that as well?
Oh, yes. In fact, I recently published an article for Pet Sit magazine. It's an article about pet safety, keeping your indoor pets safe from household hazards. And it won a certificate of excellence from the Cat Writers Association.
I love that. Now, the Cat Writers Association, you've also won for your fiction. Am I right about that?
Yes, I've won for several of my books. And this time I won for a short story, Sneaky's Christmas Mystery, which features the cat from my Cobble Cove series.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I know whenever I think of you and whenever I see your name pop up on my feeds, I generally think 2 words. I know they're not the only words that go with you, but I generally think cats and I think mystery. But I know that you're not only about cats and you're not only about mystery. I mean, we're talking now and you're nonfiction also. So you run the gamut.
I started with the nonfiction, actually. I used to also be on the student newspaper, so I have some background in journalism. I was a features editor, and I also worked on my library school newsletter. I produced it, I edited it, I wrote articles. So I had some background there, and that's when I went into cat writing. Following that, I went into the magazine when I joined the Cat Writers Association.
Okay, and what led you to join that? I'm guessing just a love of cats, or had you?
Yes, I love cats, and I wanted to write about them. My own cats. I've always had cats since I was a child, and at the time I heard about this association, and they were all cat lovers and writers, and it was just, and I was so motivated, and the only way I could join them at that time to become a professional member was to have 2 published articles. And I had been writing these articles, but I hadn't been really submitting them or trying to publish them. So that pushed me into publishing them. So I had my 2 published articles, and I was accepted as a professional member. And the association is 25 years old. They just had their anniversary. And I've been with them since, I guess it's almost the same length of time, because I think I joined, I know I went to the 2000 was 20, about 21 years I've been a member. Since 99, I went to their conference.
Wow, and I never heard of them until you were a guest on my show, and
They've expanded. They have expanded over the years, and now they've gone virtual, with their contests, and they have a social media presence, Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. And so they have made a lot of changes, because as they've grown, and there's it's not just cat writing, it's my cat is crossing over.
That's fine.
Sorry about that. That's Hermione, by the way.
Hi, Hermione.
My female calico kitten. Well, she's going to be 2. She's not a kitten anymore. I'm sorry. I was saying, what was the question?
I'm waiting for mine to come walking across my cat.
Yeah, it was something about the camera. Oh, yes. So as I was saying, to keep up with the times, and also so now what they've done is they have cat artists, any media, whether you make videos about cats. It's not just writing anymore. So they really have expanded.
They're a whole organization.
And they're very talented people, and I've had a lot of support from them, and I've met a lot of people, and it's really great.
And I think I saw pictures of you at, whether it was a convention or award ceremony, you were wearing little cat ears. I said,
oh, it's so much fun. Last year I went to St. Louis. Every year it goes to a different location because they have people all over the country.
Sure.
So each year, This year they were supposed to go to New Jersey, which would have been great. I wouldn't have had to fly. But unfortunately, because of what's going on here with the pandemic, they are now having a virtual awards ceremony. But the conference itself is like 3 days. And people wear cat clothes, clothing with cats, and they have cat ears. I should have worn cat ears today. There's a lot of networking. You meet with authors and editors. And the banquet is the high point. It's usually the Saturday night that they have it. Or is it the Friday night? I'm a little confused. I think it might
That's
be.
okay.
But anyway, during the banquet, they have the award nominees in each of the categories. And as I said, if you've won, I don't know if I mentioned this, if you've won a certificate of excellence, you are eligible to win the biggest award is the Muse Medallion. And it's unbelievable. I wish I had a picture of it. I have not yet won one. Keeping my fingers crossed. I've won certificates. I've come close. But there are so many entries. And you would be amazed. And it's very tough. I've been a judge too. As I can't judge the categories I've entered, but I can judge the other categories. And it is tough because there is so many people are talented in this organization. And the categories range from articles to books to short stories to photography to video. It's amazing. But the high point is the banquet, and that's when the winners. And also, I forgot to mention, in addition to the Muse Medallion, they have sponsors who give other prizes, monetary prizes, and other items. For instance, I won a few years back. I won from Purina for my article. It was about grooming your pet, and I won a plaque from Purina. It would be hard to see it. I can't even photograph. It's all glass.
Really?
It's beautiful. And in addition to that, I did get a check. So it was very nice. It was very nice. It was wonderful.
Wow. So if any of our listeners love cats, absolutely consider joining this.
Yes, catwriters.com.
Catwriters.com. That's easy to remember. I love that.
It's great. If you have cats, you write about cats, you want to write about cats, whatever.
If you have a cat right now lying across your desk,
yeah.
I'm amazed I don't right now. I generally do have a cat sprawled right across my desk. And one of my cats is rather fat, so she takes up the entire desk.
Oh.
Now, in addition to theming with the cats, which I know is not all of your writing, you're a mystery writer in general. How did you get into mysteries? What about it got you into writing mysteries? Did you choose it? Did it choose you? How did that
I've always enjoyed reading mysteries. I've always found them, I've always wanted to solve the mystery. I just enjoyed the books. And I started out, I wrote a short story. That was my first it was Cat Crimes Through Time. There was a series of books. And Carol Nelson Douglas, who writes the Midnight Louie cozy series, she's a member of Cat Writers, and I knew her at the time. And both of us had stories in the book. They had other authors. Then but I've always read mysteries, and not just cozy mysteries. I've read, I have certain favorite authors. I love Nora Roberts, Sandra Brown, and some of them cross over with romance because I do like romantic suspense. When I was younger, I liked Phyllis Whitney. She was in gothic romance. She wrote into her late 90s, and she lived to like 102. I even wrote to her when I was young, and I wish I could find her reply. I've been looking for that letter forever. But I did write to her, and she did reply. And she lived on Long Island at the time, and yes, so. But yeah, I did it choose me? I don't think so. I think I chose it because of my interest, but maybe it did choose me because why was I interested in the first place?
Right. Absolutely. Now,
which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Exactly. Now, within mysteries, you mentioned cozy mystery, romance mystery. Tell me a little bit about these different subgenres.
Yes. Well, the mysteries have a lot of subgenres. There's cozy mystery, which such as mine, the Cobble Cove series, which takes place in a small town. Most of them take place in a small town. Sometimes they feature recipes. Sometimes they feature pets, like I have Sneaky the library cat. They also might have, they have amateur sleuths. So I have the librarian who helps solve the mysteries. In some of these, you know, there's other characters that have like sometimes strange occupations. In mine, it's a librarian. It's different features of it. But they have tea a lot of times. It's like, think Agatha Christie. That's a cozy mystery, those type of books. There's police procedurals, which are more serious mysteries. They have detectives solving the mystery. There's also like, there are detective mysteries. There's thrillers. Well, thrillers, some of them are mysteries. Some of them are more suspense. There's psychological mysteries like My Sea Scope, which is a mystery, but it also delves into the theme. There's themes that you have to think about. There is a psychologist in the book, actually. Right. But I would say my Reason to Die mystery is more of, it's not so much, it's like a police procedural. But, and then right now I'm working on a medical mystery because it deals with memory, a clinical trial of a new memory drug and a murder that's involved.
Wow. So valuable for our listeners to hear that you're not just writing a mystery, but it's actually in one of these subgenres. And what you said, especially about the cozy mysteries, leads me to think that if I were setting out to write something, I really should find out what the expectations are. So if a cozy mystery typically is in a small town with, as you said, a protagonist that has kind of an odd avocation, but they're an amateur sleuth, right? Important to know that, so that if I start writing a mystery that takes place in New York City and it's a detective, it's not a cozy mystery.
Well, there's also, you got to remember, within the cozy mysteries, there are subgenres.
Oh, wow.
Yes, like the historical cozy mystery, the paranormal cozy mystery. And, you know, there are subgenres of that. The mysteries about cooking, the mystery about pets, the cozy mysteries about pets. So they each have, it's complicated. There's different themes, but it's a lot of fun. People like to read them.
Absolutely, and people like to be able to find what they want to read as well. If I'm a person who's interested in reading cozy mysteries about cats, then or something else, to have a subgenre like that delves down, or cozy mysteries that are historical fiction. Again, a subgenre of a subgenre, so I can find it. Do you think about this before you begin writing the book or as you're writing the book?
I'm not really sure of the question. Are you saying, do I think of the genre?
Yeah, do you think of the genre? Do you have maybe a bit of an idea in your mind, and then you say, okay, I'm aiming for cozy mystery, historical, or something like that?
I'll tell you, I think I know how to answer this. I'll tell you my experience writing my cozy mystery. When I started writing A Stone's Throw, which was the first book of the Cobble Cove series.
Right.
I did not have in mind, I just had the idea for the murder, you know, the idea for the plot. And then I wrote it. And then I thought it was romantic suspense because there was a lot of romance in it.
Okay.
But as it was reviewed, the reviewers said it was a cozy mystery because it took place in a small town. It had quirky characters. It had a library cat. So it met a lot of the criteria. And I wasn't even going to write a second book. But when I realized that, yes, it does, then the characters grew on me, because the characters are very important in a cozy mystery. Most mysteries, characters are very important. People identify with them. They feel like they become friends to them. So I got to know my characters because they do things. I've said this when you interviewed me in the past. I ended up killing somebody.
I love when you.
I didn't start out getting killed, but they start having their, as you identify them, and you know, they start taking on a life of their own. So they influenced me to write a second book. I mean, I knew it was then I figured it was going to be a cozy series. So with Between a Rock and a Hard Place, which took place during the holidays, I went back to Cobble Cove and there was a new murder. Okay. So the thing is that, and I had the characters grow throughout the series, they change. I do kill some of them off, or some of them leave, some of them move away. I also develop characters who might have been lesser well known that move up. And I add new characters because you have to make it, each story is different, but it's part of this. You have the main characters, of course, Alicia, the protagonist is the main character, the librarian, and Sneaky, who's in every book. So you do have the main characters, but then you have minor characters who may not stay, might grow, change. So there's a lot to think about. But no, to answer to your question, since I'm writing the series, I know it's a cozy, but I did not start out saying I'm writing a cozy.
What a fantastic, inspiring, what you just said, I think opens a lot of doors for a lot of people, because you described how you wrote the book, and because of the way the reviews were going, and this is really a good lesson for all of us to kind of be open to the fact that people are reading the book and they're saying, this is what it is. Might not have been what you intended, but you decided, you know what? I'm going to embrace that.
Why not?
And I'm going to go on from that. I think that that's fabulous.
Well, I've been told, as I've written my book by other reviewers, my other books that are not cozy, that I still write cozy-like. In other words, I first of all, I do not write explicit sex scenes. I'm not into that. Okay?
Right.
And in cozies, you can't even curse. I mean, some people object to slang in cozies. Right. But I do in my other books. I don't curse a lot. I don't have explicit sex, but I might have themes. I might say one or two words. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I do. It may not. It's not a cozy per se, but you may have a cozy feel to it.
Yes, I'm so glad you said that, because now I read Cisco.
Yes.
And you said that is not a cozy mystery. Yet I'm sitting here saying it was in a small town.
Right.
And it's like checking all of the boxes that you're describing. And I certainly understand why you're saying, it's a psychological mystery. That makes perfect sense to me. But as you're describing the cozy, I'm saying, pretty much hit all those too. Now, how did you learn about all of these different genres, subgenres, expectations? And you're probably going to tell me because you're a librarian, so you know everything that there is to know. But.
Well, that's part of it. I mean, I read a lot of different genres. I don't like to stick with the same type of book. I like mysteries. I read mostly, and of course, I write mysteries. And I do read cozies, but I read other books. I've read paranormal books. I've read science fiction. I mean, I try to vary what I read too, and I like to read different types of authors, not just popular ones, because I know a lot of indie authors also through my writing, so I like to read their books. But I'm sorry, I'm losing track of the question here.
No, that's okay. I was asking
how I knew about the genres and everything. Yes. Well, I have taken classes. I take online computer classes. I belong to Sisters in Crime. That's another association that I belong to. And through the library, they have a lot of, we even have on Canopy, they have the great courses on writing. I've viewed a few of those. I've taken the Gale courses, which is a database for my library on writing. So I've taken a lot of courses. So that's how I found out a lot about the writing genres.
Fantastic, fantastic, and such valuable information for us. If you were going to write something other than mysteries, I know you do write the cat nonfiction, but is there another fiction genre that you would say, this one's going to have no cats, no mystery? Would that ever happen?
Well, that I don't know, okay, but I will tell you what I would like to write, and what I wouldn't want to write, okay. I have written short stories also of different genres. I've done horror, I've done science fiction, I've done romance. I really don't feel comfortable writing like straight romance unless it's like romantic suspense, but I like paranormal themes. Okay. I'm talking about time travel. I'm talking about Twilight Zone, and I do have several stories like that. I had a historical time travel that took place in Cape May and in the 1800s. And then I had one about the California earthquake that went back in time. So I like that type of thing. I love The Time Traveler's Wife by Audrey Niffenegger. That was one of my favorite books. And what I will say that I once wrote my very first novel, which wasn't a stone's throw, wasn't even Cloudy Rainbow, which is the first published novel. It was a book called Time's Relative. And I have that manuscript. It's even on computer because a lot of my manuscripts are written in notebooks. I still have those. But I want to do something with that book because it's complete. It needs to be edited. I mean, I have other projects before it, but it's a time travel and it features cats, by the way.
I couldn't imagine it didn't feature the cats.
And there's mystery. There's mystery too. But time travel is the big theme. But that's what I like to write. I like to write books that are a little different. I don't, even mysteries, I like to throw things in there a little that you have to question, you have to think about. That's the type of book I like to read too. I don't like to read a book like a romance because it's so, I'm not saying romance is great. I know a lot of people that can write it well. But what I'm saying is, it's really, the boy meets girl, they don't get along, something happens, and that's the end. I like something where the reader has to think. I'd like to put in red herrings to make it look like another person did it. You have to make strong characters in a mystery, and I think you have to mislead them with clues. You have to make twists up, that people have to solve, and you've got to surprise the reader. But you can't, you got to put in the mystery, you have to put in clues that are believable, that people will look back and say, why didn't I see it? But the twist at the end has to surprise them, even though they should have known. It's not easy to write. I admire authors who can do it. I've read books where there were 2 or 3 twists at the end, and I'm telling you, it's amazing. And I think I had 2 twists at the end of some of mine.
Fantastic. Now, I know you mentioned to me, and you brought this up, and it blew me away, that the characters that you're writing, you don't necessarily know who lives, who dies. They take on a life of their own. When you're writing a mystery then, do you know who did it when you start writing? Do you outline it first, or how big are the surprises?
Well, here's the thing. I just write. I sometimes I know, like, I don't plan who's going to be the killer, but sometimes as I'm writing, it comes to me, and from that point forward, I know who the killer is. It depends on when it comes to me. But I recently took a plotting course, and I was really blown away. The Simon Wood, excellent author. And I learned a lot from it because I want to plot a little bit. I find that when I edit, it's harder to edit if it hasn't been planned ahead. But I want to keep my creativity, my flexibility. But I love the way, how he taught me how to outline, there was a way of doing it. And you would know the killer at the beginning. But, I mean, you got to write what works for you. I don't recommend it for everybody. If you want to stay a pantser or just, wing it, as long as when it's edited, you work with an editor, everything works out at the end. I know I've been writing for years like this and things work out. But if you want to try to plan it, that's good too. It might be easier. You've got to try what works for you. That's the bottom line.
So you start a book with a nugget of an idea and just.
Well, I always have character outlines. They're brief. I want to, you could expand, I could expand them. I have a plot idea.
Okay.
And then it changes sometimes as I write. Sometimes I take notes in a notebook. Sometimes I do them in Word, but they do change. They grow as I write. It does follow a different path sometimes.
Wow, unbelievable. Now, at this point, the Cobblestone Mystery Series has how many books in it?
4 books.
4 books. Is that the end of that series?
I'm hoping to write the 5th, and I have ideas for it. Okay. But I have other projects right now, and it's difficult. I've been off from work for a while, but I work full-time at the library. But I have been working from home. In fact, today I have a Zoom meeting. I do virtual chats. There's different things I've been doing. But I've also been organizing my writing files, which has really been helpful because I would never have had the time if I was working full-time. But I'm still, like I said, it's not like I'm not working, but I've had a little extra time.
Mhm.
And I've organized them. And the writing files, now that they're organized, I can't believe the amount. Like, I found articles like back 20 years, that I did when I did for Cat Writers. And I found ideas, that's even more important, that I wanted to work on. I mean, there's no shortage of ideas. It's the time. So, but I have to finish the medical mystery first, I think, and then move on. Cobble Cove will be there at some point, I'm hoping. I do have an idea for another series, and another cozy mystery series that I've been actually querying to agents with no luck right now. But I want to redo it. I want to edit it further. But you got to do one project at a time. Some people are like, they do several at once, and you can't. For me, I can't do that. I have to do one project at a time.
Like to focus. I get that. Otherwise, you're going to have this character showing up in this book, and he'll get really interested.
There are times when you have time between a book. Like, let's say I submit a book and I'm waiting for, because they don't give you an answer overnight.
Right.
So during that time, I can write something else, or I can edit something else.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm working on a nonfiction project that I'm planning, and it's going to be nonfiction. It has to do with cats. And because I'm still doing my short stories, I have some out there already that are queried for different publications and articles and things. So it's not like I'm not writing. I'm writing. I have, yeah, like I said, it's just one, I'm not saying one project at a time, but, books are a lengthy project. There's shorter, like I write short stories, but they're just as difficult to write. A short story sometimes is the thing is it's shorter, but it may not be easier to write. It's just shorter.
Right.
So you've got to, allocate your time and your project.
And no, you're absolutely right. Short stories are not necessarily easier.
No.
Because you are limited by length, you have to make sure that you get in enough character development, story, flow, those things.
I was very happy with the Sneaky's Christmas Mystery, because even though I hadn't written the 5th Cobble Cove, I took off after the 4th one. And I wrote, and the difference in that story, which is up for the award, the difference is that you can see the cat's thoughts. I didn't do that in my other books. The cat led clues. He led Alicia to clues that solved the mystery and acted in other ways. But actually in this one, you hear Sneaky's voice, and the girl cat that I introduced, Kitty Kai, that I introduced in 4, which is the calico like mine, which coincidentally I didn't have her when I wrote the book. But yeah, so it's funny. And I love that, because you could actually, know what was going on in the cat's minds. And I wrote from the cat's point of view, which is something I do on my blog, on Sneaky's blog. I have my own cats have their own column there. So I write from their point of view. And I write from Sneaky's when he interviews other pet authors.
Fantastic.
Other pet characters, I may say.
Right.
Yeah.
You have given us so many actionable tips to get started. And anything you want to add for our future authors out there?
Tips about writing? Well, you have the main thing, and I interview people on my blog, the debbiedelouise.com, my website, which is also my blog. I interview other authors, and the question I ask them is, what advice would you give new authors?
Right. Yes.
And it's basically to just keep writing. You can't give up. It's a very competitive field. But if you love to write, you don't write to make money. Don't write to, you write because you love to do it, you enjoy doing it, and you like what you write about. Don't write what you think other people, want you to write, because you will find an audience, because there are people who, if you like what you write, like I loved Seascope. I got to tell you, out of all my books, that book. I
loved it too. Absolutely.
As I was writing Seascope, because I went back 20 years and she was young, and I had the characters at different ages. It was different. But, I've had different reactions to that book. I had people who absolutely loved it, people who were confused about the timeline, which I made very clear.
You were very clear about the timeline.
It was very clear. But the reason I loved it, because it flew by. I wrote short chapters, which is like James Patterson, and that's a trick, because readers don't want to sit there for a long time between chapters. I noticed that. but because it was quick reading, it was quick writing. I got into it, and it was because I enjoyed the story so much, and I based it on my life. All your books, there's a little bit of you in it. So I had, things in that book that were based on me. Of course, it was all fictionalized.
Right, right.
But in all my books, there's a little something. And but the idea is, I just loved the way the characters started. The young person, and then the older adult, at them as an adult, and how I went back and forth. But yet, and the mystery, and I made it psychological. And I really, I made the ending where you got to figure it out. And I think I'm not revealing anything. Some people know it. Some people are still figuring it out. But and there was a twist, that I hope people didn't see coming. But the thing is, the book really, I enjoyed writing. When you enjoy writing, that's the main thing. Enjoy what you write. If you enjoy what you write, other people will enjoy it too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for such valuable information. Can you remind our viewers where they can find you and your books?
Well, again, on my website, debbiedelouise.com. I know it's a podcast, you're not going to be able to see anything but I'm on Facebook and Twitter at Deb Librarian, which might be easier to find. Instagram, I don't use as much as I should, but I'm there, Debbie_writer. And the Cat Writers Association, I'm on the my publishers, Solstice Publishing and Next Chapter Publishing. You can look me up. I'm on their websites. So I'm around,
He's around.
I'm around.
Absolutely. Well,
I should have had you have my name down there. The only thing is I have a space in my name.
is there a space between the D and DE?
DE space, LOUIS.
Oh, it didn't come out on your little thing here. Okay, I'll make sure.
There is a space.
Yeah.
But of course, on the website, on the website, there's no space. It's just Debbie De Louise.
Right. Well,
so there is no space.
I'll make sure to put the web address in.
But on Amazon, if they go to my Amazon author page, they would have to have, my last name with the space.
With the space.
On my Amazon page.
Debbie, I've known you for a long time. I had no idea there was a space. I've learned a lot today. Well, I can't thank you enough. I think that the Cat Writers Association is going to get flooded after this podcast with phone calls. I hope that they give you an extra set of ears or something as a thank you for sending so many people their way. And I'm hoping that people are inspired to get started on writing their next piece. And some of these actionable thoughts about reading and understanding what different genres are and getting started, and that there's a million different ways to get started, whether you want to outline first or you want to, develop characters and just see where they take you. Absolutely. Debbie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Stephanie. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. And to all of our viewers, happy writing.